Hey guys, so today I'm going to go back to Loyal. If you're a regular viewer, you know that a week or two ago or three, I was really pushing hard to find out how to dial this guy in. And I settled on scooping as the best way to quickly load up enough soap to have enough soap for your shave. And so we're going to go a little bit differently with this one today. We've got the 7 o'clock Super Stainless. I believe this is a green. And then we're going to put it in the Wolfman. This is the 46 gap WR1. And I'm just playing around with blades to try to find one for this, the mildest gap that I know about from this maker on this model. And I'm trying to find a really, really enjoyable blade with it. This is the Omega 20102 brush. And the reason I picked it is because of the soap. I am going to brush load. I've brush loaded for 2 minutes previously and I still didn't have enough soap. So how about a boar that's notoriously not all that comfortable on the face, meaning maybe a little bit of scritch to the tips could dig in, gather up enough soap to make it more convenient. Now I'm sure if I had a soft brush and I wanted to crank on it for 3 minutes or something like that, I might end up with enough lather to do what I want to do. But I don't really want to do that all the time. And so what about, let's play around with it with a boar. Let's try that. And so as you can see, I've been scooping. And the scooping, what was it? 3/4 of a teaspoon, I think, is what I needed to scoop out of this tub to get myself a nice 4-pass, 5-pass lather. So let us get that ready. And I love this scent. Woo! This is the Silk Tallow formula from Chiseled Face, and this is called Loyal. And I really, really enjoy the scent. And so I'm having great fun as I'm playing around with trying to figure out how to formulate it and get a good efficient process down for it. All right, let's load up this blade. Peter commented recently in my pursuit of this razor and trying to get a good blade for it. A really good blade. I mean, I've tried several blades and many have been good, but I'm trying to find my best one, that I really enjoy. This is the green 7 o'clock Super Stainless. He actually recommended the yellow, but I didn't have one of those on hand. Also, it does bear mentioning that just because that yellow works really well for him, doesn't mean it's going to be that way for me at all. But I figured it's a good place to start as any, right? So someday we'll put a yellow when I am able to find my supply of yellows. All right, so the green Super Stainless is loaded up, and we'll just see what kind of shave it gives me. Typically, my mild razors really like to have, and when I say that, I mean I really like the shave that I get when I take a really mild razor and put a really sharp blade in it. Something known for ultra sharpness, like a Feather and a Nasset and those guys. All right. So get my face wet and then we will load up. The brush has been soaking, and that's important for boar brushes, probably about 6 or 7 minutes at this point. With this brush, it's so not soft that I like to soak it for longer if I can. But in this case, I think that maybe it's fine that I didn't soak it for as long as I normally like to, since I want it to be kind of grabby with the soap. I believe, in terms of thinking about how much to load for, the duration of time, that 2 minutes might have been what I was trying in the past, and I think it did kind of work out. So and this is a soap I've had to really go overkill on. Why don't we say 2.5 minutes of loading? All right. Just going to shake out a lot of the water from the brush. And I am going to do something as I'm loading. I'm going to watch the kind of the froth in the puck as I'm working it. If it really reduces and where a lot of the suds and stuff are only in the brush, sometimes that's an indicator that you need to add a little bit more water, like half a teaspoon or something like that. So I'm going to add water if I need to. It would be great if I had a timer that I could stop and start, but that's the way it is. All right. And then I don't think I'm going to cut them at it with too much water, and so I don't think that's going to be a problem. But I will be watching for it not to have enough water, and I may add a little bit as we go. So let me load up my syringe, and that'll be loaded with 2 teaspoons of water. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, the minute of 6 is going to roll around here in 15 seconds, so we'll start off with that. This is a brush. I'll say that it's bigger when you get it than it looks in the pictures, and so I was happy about that with my big old hands. And but the handle itself is kind of short. Do you see the lag? And that's one of the reasons I don't like some of these long Omega brushes, because the tips will kind of lag behind the handle as you're doing this kind of operation here. And so then you end up kind of digging a hole in the middle. All right, almost 30 seconds in. You can see we've got a nice little froth going on there in the soap, so I don't think we're too dry. You need a little bit of water. Generally, you need a little bit of water to help that lather to the soap to be picked up into the brush, to kind of make the top of the soap soft. Too much, I've definitely had it happen where too much, that's 1 minute, too much water impeded my ability to pick up soap. And that may vary depending on the soap itself. Some soaps may never have that problem. You know, you can go at them with a soaking brush and still be fine. Now it's encouraging that we've got this kind of nice thing. Look at the overflow stuff. That's encouraging. And we're about at 1.5 minutes. Almost. And there. And that's good stuff. That's not just light foamy soap. Wouldn't be interesting if I just had tons of lather, because this brush is just kind of prickly. And so it was easily able to pick up enough soap. But I mean, still, if we have to load for 2 minutes each time, that's still kind of inconvenient. I'm going to go ahead and stop at 2 minutes, because look at all this stuff that's overflowing here. I mean, this looks like some nice, rich, early lather. So let's just see if that'll be enough. I'm going to take a second to rake all this into the bowl. This is a water softness that's reasonably soft, and so I don't think I could have any problems because of the water hardness. It is a cold night, and so I am bringing in water sometimes to help it to be lukewarm instead of frigidly cold, which could actually desensitize my face to the shave. So here we go. Here's all that lather, the early lather that is put in the bowl, and then I'm going to start working it. And since we see it's pretty uniform. It's not very wet in certain places, and so I think I'm going to start out with throwing a little bit of water in there to help get things started. I'm really curious to see if we've loaded enough soap to not have to go back to the puck midway. Hey, while we're doing this, I wanted to talk about, I have a viewer named Seth who just recently, I saw a message from him on the comments. He had seen my videos about the Sterling High Mountain White brush, and I've just really been enjoying that one, enjoying the soft tips and the medium backbone and the big splay, very comfortable for me. And he got it in and said that it still gave him some brush burn. Now, it could be that he has really sensitive skin. That definitely could be something that's going on. But we can keep on looking at things to try. Since he got it in and has, I imagine he messaged me after that first use. And so if he's only used it once, then one problem could be that the badger just hasn't really broken in yet. Badgers definitely do not need to be broken in like boar brushes. They don't, boar brushes, some of them take, especially Omegas, I've heard of them taking 300 or 400 uses before they really break in and get comfortable. Obviously, badgers are not like that. But I have had many badgers start off soft, from the very beginning. I've had some badgers get softer after just a week, and then they pretty much stay that way. And I had one where I had to use it 2 or 3 weeks before it got soft, before it got not prickly. I had one badger silver tip that was actually prickly as I was using it in the early days, but that changed. And it was a cheap badger, don't get me wrong, but it changed into something really nice after a while. So I'm glad I kept on with it. So, I advised him in a comment some different steps. Keep using that brush and see how it changes after a few weeks. Now look, I think we might have enough lather to do the job. We've got kind of a little bubbly situation going on there. But this lather just kind of does that for me. This soap base. And you know what? I need to get a really smooth soup bowl. And I firmly believe that if I were to do this same exact load, but just with that other bowl, which is not textured, doesn't have any ridges in the middle of it or anything like that, I'd probably end up with this same type of lather. Some people think that the bumps and ridges and textures of this kind of bowl add air, and I don't believe it adds enough to really worry about. Now, there are other bowls that I've seen that have very aggressive ridges and bumps and sometimes even sharp corners and things to agitate the lather, but this is not one of those in my opinion. All right, this is looking pretty good. I've definitely got enough, and it's pretty fluid here for this base, and so I think let's just try it. 2 minutes is still a long time to load, but at least we definitely know we can load with 3/4 teaspoon of the soap if we want to scoop it and press that into the bowl. Or if you don't happen to have a scoop handy, then knowing that you could work it for 2 minutes and have a good lather is another good to have that alternative. Oh, the smell of this is just so good. So many manly things going on all at the same time. I just really like this one. I'm so glad that he made this scent. And splash a little water on my face before we go. Working it into my skin here, and this brush, since it's sometimes not soft, definitely likes it if I happen to run my lather a little bit more dry than usual. Helps to soften those tips a little bit. I'll bet if a lot of the shavers out there would hydrate their lathers as much as I do, they might find that they don't like nearly the same brushes that they currently like, because those kind of overloaded thicker lathers are hiding the real feel of the brush. I'm not saying that's wrong at all, just I think it's a curious observation. "24 hours is the distance between last shave and now. I do feel just a bit of kind of scritch. It's not scratchy, is my interpretation, but it's not There are some kind of tips that maybe have a little bit too much firmness. And if I were to just go to town on my face with this brush for a long time, I could see how it might give me a little bit of irritation. All right. It looks like this lather could actually take a little bit more water if I wanted. Most soaps that kind of look like this on my face are too dry, but I think this base differs a little bit, and you do have to be flexible and kind of remember your technique per base, because you sometimes have to make adjustments. All right, so the 7 o'clock super stainless, I believe that's the green box, one of the green boxes. I think there are 2 green boxes. It's and of course it's the one that says super stainless. I think there's another green box but it has different subtitle. All right. It's comfortable. I can feel it, cutting hairs. And this is a pretty young blade. It's pretty fresh. This one only has maybe 2 uses on it. Feeling very good. I used a Kai blade on this with this razor yesterday, and this blade is better than that one. Now that Kai had 15 shaves on it or something like that, so it's not exactly a fair comparison. But moving through the hair without any irritation for now, and I'm getting a good glide. Little touch up here. So to Seth, I was saying one way to go is to keep the same brush for a little while and just make sure it's not something that's going to work itself out. It could get softer with some more uses. While badger brushes don't need as much time as boars do, sometimes they do need 1, 2, 3 weeks. But after that, generally, I found that they settle down. Another alternative is a synthetic like the Motherlode knot. That's the one synthetic that I enjoy. That's where most of the synthetics out there have uber soft tips, so that's never really been a problem. But most of them have a lot of backbone in the fibers themselves, and that pushes around my skin. I don't like that. The Motherlode is the opposite. It's a whole different kind of bristle, and it's a lot softer. Some people say it's a cosmetics brush instead of designed to be a shaving brush, but I don't care. It's available at Umo. It's inexpensive, so I think it's a great option to try. And so that might be something good for him if it turns out that the brush never gets soft enough for his use. And there may be other synthetics. As I've just done a rinse here, you can probably see. Put on second pass of lather. There may be other synthetics that are good for him. I'm just not really good at the synthetics because I've found so few that I enjoy. So another resource will have to help him with that part. But if you want to stay with the natural bristles and just give them a good try, there are some boars that will actually be crazy soft. But those usually take a while to break in, and he's probably not interested in that. So we flip back to badgers. He has the Sterling High Mountain White Badger. High Mountain White is not generally the softest of the badgers. And so what he could try is a silver tip. And he may even want to try some of those brushes that many people might call too floppy because they have less backbone. And that might be what he needs with his particular skin setup. Some of the really soft ones that I've enjoyed are Kent, Whipped Dog. My Macedo silver tip is pretty good too. And these are kind of the old school silver tips, and this is very comfortable right now because it looks like we've taken off a lot of the stubble. So this is feeling really good. A lot of the old school silver tips, before the kind of two bands became super trendy, might be up his alley with their softness, just crazy softness. Any other silver tips that I have? The Kents can sometimes be found cheap, but retail they're pretty expensive. The Macedos and Whip Dog are probably similar. Oh, and the Golden Nib. The Golden Nib premium grade is a really good choice. Really good. That might be my favorite of the ones that I've mentioned because it's not as expensive as Kent. And you can buy the brush knots and then put them in your own handle. I would recommend that he perhaps start off, definitely adhere it with silicone. That way he can change the loft if he needs to. But put a couple of washers in there. I like to use plastic washers. I've got a video online about how to do that. And he could then loft it kind of high to give it the least amount of, the most amount of loft means less backbone than if you shove it more into the handle. That shave went really well. Really happy with that. So let's pause and rinse. So the Golden Nib silver tip is one of the premium one. Is probably my favorite, and it doesn't cost too much. And then you can get a cheap handle for about $10 on AliExpress if you want to do that. So third pass here. The Macedo is also inexpensive, and you can get those on eBay. Their seller has a shop on eBay, and you can pick a couple of different handle styles, and it'll come already assembled for you. And that's a nice soft silver tip. I think it's in the $45 range. And by the time you assemble your own Golden Nib with the brush plus the handle cost and all that, you might be around that point as well. But those are some options to look at and some reviews to read by some other people as well. Don't just trust me. Get some confirming opinions. So that's another option. Go for a silver tip, because generally speaking, while there are no firm rules, these silver tips will have softer tips and a little bit less backbone than the High Mountain White of the same maker. Another option, and I believe this is the last one I can think of, is to go with a two-band Badger brush, one with kind of gel tips, because those tips have been treated with something like bleach or some agent like that, because normally two-band tips are not, as soft when they are naturally occurring. And so the shaving community has taken on the practice of taking some two-band knots, because they like the amount of backbone that comes with the two-band knots. And if you have nice backbone and then your tips aren't great, what do you do if you like the backbone? Well, you chemically alter the tips, which is what a lot of like Declaration does, and any of those people that have kind of jelly knots, tip knots, hook knots, those are all synonymous names. Generally in the description, in the reviews, it'll talk that it's a knot that gels up very well, those kind of things. And so that turns the tips of your brush into kind of tiny sponges after it gets wet. They call them hook knots because when they dry, they curl into little hooks, almost like that one side of Velcro. And then once they get wet again, they soften. And so it sometimes feels like a mop on your face or a million tiny sponges. And that could be something that doesn't irritate his face very much. So that's definitely an alternative. I like the softness of my Macedo. I got the two-band, and then I also bought the Macedo silver tip at the same time. And so those are examples of a couple of alternatives. The two-band's going to have a little bit more backbone, but the tips feel softer because they have been treated. And but as far as the ones that are jelly, I'm not going to be a good authority, a good recommender for the best choices on that, other than just the few that I've tried. I'm going to just finish off this. Okay. So was that the third pass? I think that might have been the third. And so let me take a little bit of this and kind of do my, and then I can reach into the bowl. So this worked out pretty well. With the boar, obviously it picked up more soap than some of my softer brushes have. Now I'm going to change my direction. Oh, no, that's cutting well. That is feeling good. It doesn't feel like I'm getting any brush burn, any razor burn, rather. And that is very different than I often get when shaving that area right there. So this one looks like it might have been a very good choice. And I don't feel any reserve, kind of residual irritation that sometimes builds up gradually where you don't notice it except at the end of the shave. I don't believe that has not happened. So this looks like a really good choice for this razor, for me at least. So well done. Well done with that. And let's get a good rinse. So I'm glad I stopped at the 2-minute mark instead of going on. Maybe with another brush type I might have had to go on. Now synthetics, like I've been saying, a lot of them have a lot of backbone, and so it's possible that they could be similar to this boar, where they would be able to scrub up plenty of soap in the 2 minutes, where some of my softer badgers don't. And so that's one of the strengths of those synthetics, but I just don't like the way they feel on my face, so I don't use most of them. And it was pretty much the perfect amount of soap. I've got the perfect amount for this lather. I got enough for, another pass, maybe even a touch-up or two, or another pass if I kind of squeezed it out. But that's pretty much perfect the amount of soap that I wanted. It was a nice performing soap. It looked too thick on that first pass, but sometimes that's the way it happens. And then it thins out somehow. Maybe that first pass has to fight my facial oils a little bit. But so that worked really well. Oh, man. Oh, such a good scent. Oh, I love that. I think leather and some woody notes and maybe some tobacco. Just such a wonderful blend. None of them really stand out too much as to make it, something very single in purpose. It's just a nice blend where you can just appreciate different notes. Maybe it's a little mysterious as you try to figure out where the pieces of the notes begin and end. And if you want to do that, I just have really enjoyed shaving with this soap. And I believe all we used was 3 teaspoons of water. So that's good success. I've got that Motherlode synthetic that I've used before. Maybe my next experiment with this silk tallow base should be trying out that synthetic to see if it does a similar job as this boar with grabbing up soap and being able to have enough for the shave. But as usual, even when I was doctoring shaves, lathers before and having to go back after that first pass and load up more soap, I still got a great, really enjoyable, slick shave, creamy, very nice, very nice. So always good. Now I'm going to stick with Chiseled Face and Midnight Stag. Yes, we will follow up manly scents with even more manly scents. Alcohol splash, definitely. So if I have any issues, I'm not feeling anything. That was a great shave. I'm surprised. That was good technique. The blade just really worked well with that razor to give me a good cut, but also not cut me up. I will look and see, because maybe I'm loving it because I didn't get a close shave, but I bet I did. Let me check it out here. Yeah, that's a good shave. That's close. There's certain spots where it's really close. There are a few small patches that have a little bit of length to them, but the nature of that makes me think that just a simple touch-up would fix those with no problem. So that's no concern to me at all with the quality of this shave. Midnight Stag. Now, oh, that's interesting. I'm getting a different vibe from it because I bet it shares some notes with the Loyal. I get a whole different sensation because this has leather, gasoline, smoke, and wood. And I believe the Loyal has a little bit of woodiness to it. The leather as well. Something really different coming out. How about that? It's almost medicinal. I don't think I should use these two together. That Loyal affected the way I perceived the Midnight Stag. We'll see how it feels later on as different things kind of come and go. But yeah, I may not need to use these two manly things together. They're fighting together. So here we go. After a good towel stropping, this is what this brush is looking like. If you can see, there are definitely plenty of tips around the edges here that have split. So that's good. We want that to continue. That's what boar brushes do. And that means it gets softer and softer. And I'll bet that this brush, if I were, able to put a couple hundred uses in it, I may really, really like it at that point. I just don't know if I'm up for that journey when my Simogs and Zeniths are already there at such a comfortable level. But each to his own. You may be interested in that. I mean, the good thing is these are cheap, guys. These brushes are cheap. And so if you want to just pick one up, shave with it every once in a while, or what if you used it 100 times in the shower just to kind of scrub you with the soap, and then that might help this guy to break in and you're not even impacting your shave routine, that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden you try it one day and you're like, whoa, what is he talking about? This isn't scritchy at all. This is great comfy. Well, because you broke it in. Anyway, I think it'll be a good brush someday. So there we go. We told you about the water. This blade was a really good match for the Wolfman 46 gap WR1. And the Loyal just smells amazing. I think we've kind of covered it all. And we had good success with using the boar brush to whip up the soap because it's a little bit more scritchy, scratchy, and all those things. So it picked up more soap than the softer Badger brushes that I had. So the question is, you want to use your boar brush. You want to, if it's a kind of a scritchy boar brush, and you want to load for about 2 minutes, then that's a good way to treat this soap and have a good lather if you like yours like I like mine. But if I'm using another brush, then I may just keep on scooping and use that method. All right, guys. Well, I hope that there's something in this video to help you out. I really do. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves, and you guys take care. Stay safe.